At exactly 2 minutes past the hour of 8, welcome to Good Morning Agenda on UBC TV. This is a moment where you're able to discuss and participate in this discussion with the guests we have in studios by simply going on our various social media platforms. And of late, we have our WhatsApp number where you can send in your question to the topic of discussion, and our guests will be answering to that. But also, you can send in an SMS message, and that is 0709 60 25 92. While the president, in many of his addresses, alludes to the fact that in 1986, Uganda was collecting 5 billion shillings in terms of revenue as a country. Of course, there were a number of factors why to that. In 1991, we established the Uganda Revenue Authority. This was a body responsible in ensuring that we collect taxes. And it's these taxes that Ugandans give that enable the country to develop. Currently, we collect about 19.62 trillion shillings, of which 73% of this is domestically or domestic revenue. This body, tomorrow, will be celebrating 30 years of existence. And with me, I'm honored to have, that is the head of Public Relations and Corporate Affairs, Ian Lumanika, with me in studios today, with whom we are going to be discussing the journey of URA, achievements, challenges, key milestones that they have been able to achieve in this 30 years journey. And one of the things I've loved so much is the theme of these celebrations. And this is Ebenezer, thus far the Lord has helped us. And that is in 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12. Thus far, the Lord has brought us. Ian, you're most welcome to our studios this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, and thank you for hosting me.
Yeah, we are honored.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes.
First, let's begin with COVID-19, which has been really from 2020, 2021. It's not been that very friendly. How was this been a challenge, or has it been a blessing in disguise for the collector?
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you all viewers for tuning in this morning to listen to the taxman or the tax collector. It's not easy for a tax collector to be this side. We're usually in the field mobilizing revenue. But I'm glad to be here, sir. Yes, COVID-19, without a doubt, has been a challenge to the business community and world over. It's not only unique to Uganda, but God has been good to Uganda, because the economy has been resistant to this situation. For a fact that we saw growth of some of the sectors, like the manufacturing sector, like the retail and wholesale sector, like the insurance and financial sector. Though, of course, there are sectors that have been really affected. And the tourism and accommodation sector have been hit badly. But for a fact that when I tell people about this, they do not believe me, that the last 4 years, we've never seen a revenue growth like we have seen this last financial year.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And we also collected 19.26 trillion against a target of 21 trillion. We had a shortfall of around 2.3 trillion. But that shows you how this economy has been resistant to the shocks of COVID-19. Yes, we agree there are sectors that have been affected, and also there are businesses really that have been hit badly. And but the economy and the government encouragement in coming in to see how the businesses can be sustained and have business continuity has been tremendous. And we are believing and optimistic that the economy is going to rebound and stabilize. Yes.
Let's look at URA. You're going to be celebrating 30 years, and that is tomorrow at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds, where we expect His Excellency to be the chief guest there. And of course, this is also doubling as your annual Thanksgiving that you usually hold. Let's first look at some of the key milestones that you've registered since 1991.
Ebenezer, indeed, just like the theme says, this far God has seen us come. 1991, just like we said, 1986 we were collecting 5 billion. But in 1991, when this body was formed, and thanks to the leadership and the visionary and transformational leadership of this country that saw that we needed a revenue body separated from the Ministry of Finance. In 1991-1992 financial year, we collected around 183 billion. That was around 6% tax to GDP ratio. Last financial year, as I said, we collected around 19.26 trillion. We have seen growth of revenue over the years, and tax to GDP ratio of around 13.3 trillion. That is not a mean achievement. I would like to congratulate Ugandans and the country at large for that contribution and for the journey that they have walked with the revenue body. But over the years as well, we have seen really transformational institution, an institution that started at enforcing, through enforcement to collect revenue. Now it's a service-oriented organization that encourages voluntary compliance and being service-oriented, and making it easy for the taxpayers to pay tax, and they will pay. 95% of our revenue is really normal flow. Putting in place systems and processes that make it easier for the taxpayer to oblige and meet their tax obligations. We have seen systems that have been re-engineered and processes being re-engineered over the years, and now it's much easier for someone to comply than us enforcing on them. And we've seen, of course, systems that have been benchmarked on all over the world. We have revenue authorities all over Africa that come here to see how our e-tax is operating, how our electronic physical receipting and invoicing solutions are doing, digital tax solutions, the regional electronic cargo tracking solutions, our one-stop border posts, one-stop shops that we have put together. So through the years, I think the 30 years in general, we've seen tremendous achievements. And also, of course, if you look at the human capital in terms of leadership, you know very well that we, as an institution, we've been, at the start, we used to hire expatriates to run the institution. The first Commissioner General was an expatriate from Uganda, of URA. But over the years, we've seen URA has been a sphere of national influence in terms of leadership. Most of the leaders that have uplifted some of the institutions that you see in the country have come from URA. So we've been focused on making sure that we raise leaders that not only can mobilize revenue, enough revenue to lead us to economic independence, but leaders that also can have national influence in different sectors.
Well, Ian rightly said that you've come up with a number of innovations aimed at making it very easy for someone to pay tax, and also closing the gaps where someone could evade tax. But still, we still have a big challenge that our tax base, about 1.5, really, if you're to look at the population of about 40, maybe 45 million Ugandans. This law, is it because maybe people have not yet appreciated the reasons why they should be paying tax, or there are still a number of gaps that we haven't closed? As the taxman, what can we allude or reason give for these few people contributing in terms of taxes, yet we have a huge population and where we see maybe there are many taxable ventures?
Thank you, Robert, and I'm glad that you bring it up. I want you to agree with me that it's a journey. It's work in progress. I was talking to a friend in Netherlands, and he was telling me that they collect the revenue we collect in a year. They collect it in 1 day. But when I asked him, then you mean, are we doing nothing here? Because the revenue we collect in the whole year is collected in 1 day in Netherlands. No, he told me we are over 350 years old. Don't mind. You're a revenue authority that is just growing. We are just 30 years. And if you look at the achievements that you have been able to achieve compared to the 30 years of revenue authority of Netherlands at that time, you are way, way up there. So I would like to encourage Ugandans that it's a journey. We have 1.8 million taxpayers on the tax register. Last year we had 220,000 added on the tax register. This year, we have a target of adding 500,000 on the tax register. So there are processes and systems we put in place that will enable us to expand the tax base. Without a doubt, we still have, of course, few taxpayers on the tax register, and we know that also there are others out there that probably should be on the tax register that are not meeting their tax obligations. But we run a self-assessment system here in Uganda, a system that allows you to comply voluntarily, a system that does not need the taxman to come and run after you. And that is a system that has been working all over. For us to encourage taxpayers to come and register, we must be able to go out and outreach, educate, let them understand the tax obligations, why they have to register for taxes, and the benefits of registering for taxes. And we see them coming on the tax register, because that's what we have been doing. Because the cost of enforcing, Robert, is way, way too high. You may inject 75% of its budget in enforcing only 5%, and yet they can inject 25% of its budget for 95% revenue that will come in. So the avenues that are being put in place is make sure that URA is a business enabler, facilitates trade and businesses, and those that comply get the benefits, and then the others also come on register, either individual or non-individual taxpayers. If you earn income and you have a profit in the business, you ought to be meeting your tax obligations. Of course, most of you, or most of us, the taxpayers, used to ask or keep asking, what do our taxes do? We want to comply. What do our taxes do? We have seen a lot of achievements government has put in place in terms of road network, in terms of schools. Who knew that we will have complete universal secondary education in the country? Who knew at the parish level we'll have a health center? So Ugandans keep seeing and now are believing that the taxes they are paying, they're building a health center, they're helping a teacher get salary at the end of the month, they're helping someone access primary education. So, and that's the purpose of us being here.
When we look at the 30 years of URA, we're seeing you're moving more of digital day by day. You're coming up with initiatives like the e-freeze, digitalizing most of these processes, and I'm looking for a polite way of saying it. We know maybe most of our people in the informal sector, most of our traders may not be well versed with this. Literacy levels and all this could be challenges. But over the 30 years, every then and you're moving towards this direction. How has this performed, and what initiatives have you done to ensure that they better understand this digitalization? It is good in fighting loopholes here, gaps in there, but when people cannot freely be part of this, you find a person who has to hire maybe someone to feed in, interpret. How are you ensuring that still it is more beneficial to them than being more taxing and more complicated?
Yeah, thank you, Robert. It's a journey, and it's an obligation on us to go out there and make sure that we carry out comprehensive tax literacy, and we educate taxpayers and Ugandans for them to be engaged with the tax body, but also to understand our processes and our systems, to be able to use them, because it also doesn't make meaning for me to just innovate a system.
Tell a trader, go to the URA portal and we'll ask Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. We are making it much easier because the future is digital, really. We are at a stage where 99% of our processes are automated. 99%. Like if you transact with URA, you can transact with URA anywhere you are. And it's one of the government agencies that really have been a role model in terms of transforming and automating systems. And that enables us to collect more revenue, but also in an easy way. Our role now is to make sure that everyone is on board. And we have been, of course, having third parties and working with different stakeholders, collaborating with different stakeholders, and making sure we extend this awareness and sensitization to the taxpayers, and making sure that they are literate about the systems that we are using. And for that, we have seen, for example, in the registration process, we have overhauled the Excel sheet that used to be, tedious. And the taxpayers now are happy that 1, 2, 3 steps, you can register and get a TIN. Through the payment processes, we've seen expansion of the payment scope, that you can now use Visa, MasterCard, mobile money to pay taxes, which was not there. Now, that makes the businessman life easier, because I want to pay taxes and run back to my business than lining up in a bank or You know, even online banking, you can pay your taxes. We've seen filing in returns become much easier with the systems that you're talking about, like electronic physical receipting and invoicing solution, because the businessman, at the end of the day, would find out that, for example, they have to, you know, put their books together, then at the end of the month, filing returns from the receipts and all the invoices they're receiving. Now it's much easier for the businessman to go through the system and just, you know, because the IFRS shows you what you have earned, what you have spent on, and then you file your returns. So I think the systems that are being brought in board, and the business people can testify to this, that it makes their life much easier.
Well, still looking at the 30 years of URA, let's look at the element of corruption. We know URA has gone through a series of transformation. There was a time when corruption was at the helm, and everyone would tell you, we don't know what is happening. How have you transformed over these 30 years? What initiatives have you come up with for us to expect better days come ahead? Because this is one of the cancer that really a trader will tell you that I reach a tax body, and if I have to pay the tax, then I have to pay someone, not really knowing that this is going to the body, but personal benefit for me to quicken our process. How have you handled the element of corruption?
Thank you, Robert. And you know, in every brand, for people to trust you, you must have integrity, high levels of integrity. And in revenue mobilization, one of the elements that we focus on is the tax morale. For people to have the tax morale, or to increase tax morale, or the willingness to pay tax, they must trust you. So the revenue body has been deliberate at fighting corruption, but also making sure that we have men and women that are ready really to have integrity, high level, impeccable integrity. So revenue collection is a calling in general, that you come willing to put your life at the forefront, but if you're caught wanting, you're out. And in 2005, we know very well that we had a lady called Allen Kajina, the Commissioner General then, that led us for 5 years, for 10 years. And one of the mandates that she had is to clean URA. At that time, we were being referred to as, you know, den of thieves. And we've seen that really transform over there. It's work in progress. We have had a Commissioner General now who has come in very handy on integrity and patriotism and professionalism. And last financial year alone, we lost over 22 colleagues of ours because of corruption. And we have been deliberate at it of forming a compliance division now that is in charge of fighting corruption and promoting integrity in the institution, a department that is in charge of doing that. The only thing, the job they do every morning they come is to see who is wanting in terms of integrity. And integrity doesn't mean only receiving a bribe. Integrity means you're keeping time, you're doing what is right, you're following the policies, but also you're serving your clients as you're supposed to be serving. So there is a deliberate effort cleaning the image of URA. And I think if you're to rate us, I don't know what percentage you would give us, but I think we have done really, really well compared to the years that you used to hear in 2005.
Definitely, I must accept there has been total transformation. And when you ask members of Kasita, like those are the people I usually interact with, they'll tell you, yes, there's been a bit of improvement.
Yeah.
And
we are more of a listening organization. We have opened doors, and our main purpose is really to listen and collaborate with our stakeholders and see how we can work together, than us being the tax enforcers. We are beyond really tax enforcement these days. We are into listening and engaging and getting to know the solutions that we can offer to our taxpayers.
Well, I just have to remind you that you can be part of this discussion, sending in your questions, your observation as we look at 30 years of URA, its achievements, and of course some of the challenges. And you can go on Twitter. We'll have your message on our Facebook page, but also have our WhatsApp number, and you can also send an SMS message. I'm still with Ian Rumanyika, who is the Public Relations and Corporate Affairs Manager at the tax body, and that is URA. Now, let's also look at performance versus tax collection. Over the years, we know all has not been rosy.
Yeah.
How have you sailed through these years? We know there could be opportunities where you've met your targets, maybe even surpassed them. but there are also those that you've performed really not below the mark, but at least not as expected.
I've seen, the years I've been in here, I've seen the curve of revenue growth go up. I've not seen a curve of revenue growth go down, fortunately. But also, yes, as you ask, in every organization there are ups and downs, especially even when you're growing up. If you're 30 years, you must have seen some challenges and ups and downs as expected. But those, of course, teach you a lesson, and then you pick up yourselves and move on. As a revenue body, I can't say that we have not faced challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced in mobilizing revenue for this country, and mobilizing enough revenue, because that's our vision, is the informal sector. The informality of the economy has been a huge roadblock to revenue mobilization, especially to the domestic revenue mobilization strategy. Informality, what do we mean? I mean operating in a business, you're earning income, and probably you have a profit, but you're not registered for taxes. Now, we have businesses that are operating largely in the informal sector at a percentage of 52% from the statistics that we see from our friends in UBOS. So that alone affects our efforts to revenue mobilization. Our main, of course, agenda has been how do we engage different partners, different MDAs, and we've been collaborating with URSB, NIRA, and local government and KCCA to see how we can reduce the informal sector through the taxpayer registration expansion program. That when you go to register for a trading license, then you get a TIN. If you go to register for a business registration number at URSB, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, then you get a tax identification number, because you cannot have a number of businesses registered with URSB but don't register with the taxman. You cannot have a number of business registered for local license or trading license but they don't register with the taxman. Or you cannot have benefits, individuals benefiting from EMIOGA funds or any other that government program, but you do not have a tax identification number. So in collaboration and stakeholder engagement, we've seen that when working with MDAs and other government agencies through their programs, then we can expand the tax base and reduce on the informality of this economy. Probably the other challenge that we've seen, I think, is reaching out, and this is deliberate. Now we're going to make sure that the leadership has focused on making sure that we educate. The challenge has been, of course, taxpayers not knowing and understanding their tax obligations. Sometimes, of course, we've been, affected by the middlemen, the kayungirizi, the middlemen who distort the information to the last user.
They have to distort that to get a bit of profit.
Yes, but our role now is to make sure that we bridge that gap. We reach out more to the taxpayers, and what URA has done now is to bring on board mobile offices through mobile buses.
I've seen a number of them.
Yes, so the mobile offices, which we launched in July, will be reaching, every region will have a mobile office, and as I speak, the mobile office now is in Iganga. Last week it was in Kayunga and other island areas, and we've seen excitement of masses coming to the mobile office to get tax advisory services, but also to register for taxes. So I can assure you that the target that we have of 500,000 taxpayers for this financial year is going to be hit. Why? Because the taxpayers have been asking us, we want to come, we want to comply, but probably you are far from us. Yes, we have had a footprint around the country of offices, but an office like in Kayunga may not be cost effective, but when you have a mobile office there, then businessman moving from Kayunga to Jinja, then you make it much easier for a businessman now to come to the mobile office, get the tax advisory services, file in their returns, or register for taxes if they are not registered, and then you make life much easier. So yes, in terms of taxpayer education, it has been a challenge, but now we are reaching out, and we want every taxpayer, every citizen of Uganda to understand why they have to pay taxes and then come on the tax register. Thirdly, of course, we've seen us introduce taxation in the education syllabus. First of its kind, last financial year, we introduced taxation in entrepreneurship under A-level syllabus, but also we under O-level, under entrepreneurship, we also introduced taxation in economics. So we want to raise a generation that is tax aware, And for that reason, probably the taxpayers of tomorrow will be more compliant than us now, because probably we do not have a chance to interact.
Better understand.
Yes, understand taxation at a younger age. And that are deliberate efforts that the government and URA are putting in place to make sure that we raise a generation that is more willing, understands that without taxes, we cannot run a government.
Well, I love that, knowing that now you're going down and looking at the young generation to inculcate into them that desire to give tax. Globally, the taxman has issues, but I also want to commend URA for at least now having improved the public image. That it's not so much of running after people, but it's ensuring people are sensitized and they know it's their duty, and then you put friendly ventures through which they can pay tax. Well, I'll be now looking at some of the messages coming in. That is on our WhatsApp number 0709 60 25 92. Please keep them coming, and I'll be reading some of them that you've so far sent in. And on our various social media platforms, Deus, that is Mbara, tax paying is good, but URA has not invested in training taxpayers about protecting businesses, because businesses that start, but continuity is a problem. Therefore, they care about picking taxes without thinking of continuity, sustainability of businesses.
I start with that?
Yes.
Good. One is that, thank you, Robert. Is it Robert? He said it's
Deus.
Deus. Thank you, Deus. The fact is that taxation is on businesses that have earned profit or businesses that have earned income. That means if you're in the presumptive regime of 10 million or 150 million, as I said, our orientation and our business philosophy is really not to collect taxes from businesses that are struggling. Businesses that are earning a profit are the ones that we really focus on, and that is the fact that we are positioned in a way that when a business closes, and that's our business model, when a business closes, we lose. It's not in our desire or it's in our agenda to see a business close or struggle. Our agenda is to see business thrive and improve and become much bigger. That's why we have clusters of business: small taxpayers, medium taxpayers, and large taxpayers, and high net worth individuals. Our desire is to see you move from the small to medium to large, because what the large gives me is over 75% of the total revenue I collect. So I want you to be a large taxpayer. So it's not in our desire, Deus, to see a business close, and it's in our interest. In fact, if you see some of the programs that we have brought on board, like financial literacy program, when we go financial literacy program on onboarding sessions with the new taxpayers, we never even talk about tax. We are talking about record keeping, we're talking about sustaining your business, we're talking about financial management, we're talking about sales, making sales, about things that will enable this business
to grow.
Because that's why we have clusters. Like, for example, if you're below 10 million, you're not obliged to pay tax. A turnover of 10 million. And if you're between 10 million and 150 million, you're clustered in a presumptive tax regime where you have Kugeleka. Which is a simpler tax regime for small businesses, that between 10 and 150 you only do Kugeleka, where they pay only an annual fee for that. The reason is to make sure that this business grows from where it is to a bigger business, not to overtax them, but to leave them have a breather and then move on to thrive and enlarge. And that's our desire, really. It's under a business model that we are trying to enhance.
Well, Ian, as messages keep coming in, let's also look at the day that is tomorrow.
Yes.
When you talk about 30-year celebrations, what is the day like? We expect His Excellency. We are in a time of COVID-19. Koro ceremonial grounds is a bit open despite security being there. So how is the event going to be conducted?
Thank you. This event, first of all, we are celebrating with the taxpayers. We are glad that the President of this country, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has accepted to come and be our chief guest on that day, which is tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. at Kololo Independence Grounds. Why Independence Grounds is because we want to lead this country into an economic independence, to collect enough revenue where we are not dependent anymore, and that is possible. So the President will be with us, but you will be able also to join us on live sessions, on all major television stations that you know of, but most importantly also starting with UBC, who shall be live from 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock. And we'll be there to, of course, share with the Ugandans the journey of Uganda Revenue Authority, but also the future. When a man grows up and is 30 years, there are so many expectations from either parents or neighbors or friends. They put you on pressure that when are you marrying, when are you building a house? So many expectations that Ugandans have from a revenue body that has come this far. And we want to tell you about our expectations tomorrow. Want to join us, and then we'll be able to testify as well on some of the things God has been able to do for this country, but also for a revenue body, and what we are planning for the next 30 years. So tomorrow, starting 10, we shall be live on all major television sets, but also here at UBC starting 10, we shall be there. Yeah.
Well, the 30 years journey, Ebenezer, the Lord has been faithful this far. Another message there, congratulations to URA for 30 years anniversary. My question is that URA has denied to approve my company TCC for this financial year 2021-2022. Yet I've been funds my TIN. He gives the TIN number. That is Adam Swaibu Solo. Thank you. We still have a few minutes. Let's also look at this as well. Good morning, brother. This is Daniel Ginger. We use that is question to in BDCO. We are paid weekly, but we are taxed also money, and the tax is the same. Some people they chop much money, some little. We are paid 20K per day. Help us explain that, brother.
Thank you very much. I'll start with that one. What he's paying is pay as you earn. The more you earn, that's why he's saying that some people pay more, some people pay less. The more you earn, the more you pay. So it's a sasula ngabo ufuna mu Uganda, that you pay as you earn. It's a progressive tax system that in your salary, the more you earn, the more you pay. And then, of course, the first question was what?
That is, you've refused to. He talks about his TIN. He says,
oh yes, tax lien certificate. The tax lien certificate, my brother, is given to you who is compliant. And I want to apologize if that TCC has not been given to you. If you're compliant and you're saying you're filing in your returns, you're paying your taxes, you should be able to get a TCC in just minutes. In fact, Robert, the TCC, tax lien certificate, last financial year was made much easier, that you apply it online. You know, we used to have people come in to get TCCs in our offices, and then probably they will compromise our officers. Now it's online. The system either tells you you're compliant or not. And if you're compliant, it automatically gives you the TCC. And if you have got the TCC in the last 3 months, we don't have to ask you. We don't have to go back to see if you the system automatically knows that you've got a TCC in 3 months. For in the 3 months, we give you room to put together your books of accounts and make sure that you're compliant in the next 3 months. But in the 3 months, if you're asked for a tax lien certificate, you're supposed to get an auto tax lien certificate. So I'm going to look into that matter, and good that they have given us their details and the tax identification number, and I can assure that I will get back to you.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Alan Rumanyika, for the time that you've been able to tell us more of these achievements. You didn't mention that magnificent tower that I see when I'm moving around. I think it's also one of the achievements in one way or the other, and that is the taxpayers' money. Having such is also one of the things. But finally, what are your remarks? What next after 30 years?
What next after 30 years? With the taxpayers and with the government and with other partners, we have huge plans of making sure that we collect enough revenue that will fund 100% of our budget. Currently, the revenue we collected last financial year, we collected 53% of our government expenditure budget. It's our desire that we collect 100%. For us to do that is that we need to expand the tax base. From where it is, 1.8 million taxpayers are still really a small number of taxpayers, that we think that every year for the next 5 years we want to increase that tax register to 5 million. in the next 5 years. And we also want to leverage more on data, using data analysis to see who is to pay, who is supposed to pay. Using these systems that we brought on board like IFRIS and digital tracking solutions, we can easily now tell on a dashboard who it was supposed to be on the tax register and not. But also we want to be more friendlier. Favor no. We want to be more friendlier with the taxpayers, to open our doors and make sure that we enhance programs like alternative dispute resolution, which collected around 365 billion last financial year, ADR, that instead of us having our resolutions, our disputes being resolved in court, we are saying, can we have an alternative dispute resolution? And for that program alone, collected 365 billion last financial year. We have programs like voluntary disclosure, where we're encouraging taxpayers that if you're non-compliant and we do not know and we've not come to you, please come to us and let's sit on the table, and then we shall forgive you your penalties and interest, and you pay only the principal. And we've seen that collect over 23 billion. That shows you that the system, the agenda that we're putting in place is working. The agenda of not running for you, after you, but the agenda of opening doors for you to come and engage. And also, of course, we're also focusing on, just like we said, and the other taxpayers were saying, in terms of sensitization, we want deliberately go out and educate and sensitize our taxpayers. And this will be a countrywide approach, 360 degrees of making sure that we customize our tax education, make it much simpler, tailor it to the target markets and the target groups that we are targeting. If it's a sector-based, if they are fish farmers, if they are, agricultural sector, then we educate them in that particular sector. That is what we call sector-based tax education. So we want to focus on that sensitization. Then together, we'll raise enough revenue that will fund the national budget 100%.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Alan Rumanyika, that is Acting Assistant Commissioner of Public and Corporate Affairs, Uganda Revenue Authority, to having had time. And of course, I love the fact that now you're going to be more proactiveness than running after people. And of course, the success that Rumanyika and others in this tax body have been able to achieve. Pay your tax. It is your responsibility. One president of the USA asked that before you ask what the country has done for you, ask yourself, what have you done for your country? And paying tax is the noble cause. Remember, you pay tax out of your profits. So let's pay tax, and we wish you a lovely day as you celebrate these 30 years.
Thank you.
Indeed, we hope to see more. Stay safe. COVID is real. COVID is around. We need to reduce the positivity rate to have a fair economy reopen in our country. I'll leave you with Ruben to take you through the world of sports. Till tomorrow, God bless you.